Hi there everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you're looking to get into FPV drone racing, then 65mm whoops like this are a fantastic place to start. There is a really active drone racing community around these little guys, and because the races are usually indoors, they happen all year round, whatever the weather. In this video, we're going to be looking at two new 65mm whoops from NewBeeDrone, their Hummingbird series, that are designed to get you into 65mm whoop racing as quickly and easily as possible, and get you winning races as soon as possible as well. We're going to be looking at all of the specs and key features of these new binding flies on the bench. We're going to be looking at the Betaflight configuration, and then I'm going to be taking them for a fly so you can see the quality of image that you get from the cameras and how they perform just flying around. It's a lot to cover in one video, so let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into it. Let's start by looking at these two new Hummingbird drones side by side on the bench. And they share a lot of similar components. They have the same NewBeeDrone Hummingbird V3.1 flight controller and the same NewBeeDrone BI camera. But the philosophies between these two drones couldn't be more different. Let's start with the Hummingbird V3.1 on the left. This has a large, durable polycarbonate canopy, and the frame is very durable and a relatively thick plastic. And I think NewBeeDrone actually offer a lifetime warranty on this frame in the USA, which tells you everything you need to know about how tough it is. The motors are quite large. They're 0802 25,000 kV, which is on the larger side for a 65mm whoop. And that makes sense because this is a bit of a heavier whoop with the canopy and the frame. The motors are also pluggable, which means that they connect to the flight controller by plugs and there's no soldering to swap the motors over. That's also true of the camera and the two antennas. They all connect to the flight controller via plugs. And I think this speaks to the philosophy behind this design. It is designed to be exceptionally durable and very, very easy to repair. So if you need to swap a motor, swap an antenna, even swap the whole flight controller, it's very easy to do, and you can do it without doing any soldering. So that's the key benefit of this. You can crash it a lot and it will survive, and if you do damage it, it's very easy to repair. If we move over to the RaceSpec, the philosophy behind this drone is just to get the weight down as far as possible. And that means we're using smaller 0702 30,000 kV motors, which is much more suitable for a lighter drone. The frame is thinner and lighter than what we saw on the Hummingbird V3.1, and the canopy is clearly a lot lighter, and it's 3D printed rather than polycarbonate. The antennas are, the VTX antenna is still connected by UFL, but it's a much thinner, lighter design. And the receiver antenna is just a piece of enameled wire soldered directly onto the board. Everything has been done to keep the weight down as far as possible. The motors are no longer plugged, they are direct soldered, and more than that, the motor windings are actually extended all the way to the flight controller to save as much weight as possible. This drone is designed to win races. It's designed to get the weight down, make it as agile and fast as possible around a track, and obviously there is a trade-off with durability. So NewBeeDrone are hoping that you'll train with this drone, do all your crashing with this guy, and then use this drone to win races. One thing I did notice when comparing these two drones on the bench is they use different battery connectors. The Hummingbird V3.1 uses a PH2.0 solid pin connector, and the RaceSpec uses a GNB A30 connector. This is really strange. If you're looking to have pilots train on this drone and then race with this one, you'd expect to use the same battery type on both of the drones, so that you only need one charger and you only need one type of battery. If you are going to buy both of these drones, you're probably going to want to swap the connector on the Hummingbird V3.1 for a GNB A30 like you get on the RaceSpec, and then just race packs with either a BT 2.0 or an A30 connector, because they'll both work with this battery cable and they'll give you more performance than a PH 2.0. Now let's get some weights for these guys. Let's start with the Hummingbird V3.1. That comes in at 21.49 grams, and if I add a NewBeeDrone Nitro Nectar Gold 300 mAh battery, that brings it up to 29.8 grams. If we compare that to the RaceSpec, that comes in at just 16.4 grams, and if I add again a NewBeeDrone Nitro Nectar Gold 300 mAh, that brings it up to 24.7. Now we're going to take a look at the flight controller spec and Betaflight configuration for these new drones. But before I do that, I just want to point out that one of the nice features of these boards is that they plug directly in over micro USB, and the Hummingbird V3.1 also has some beautiful LEDs that light up when it powers up, and they look fantastic. You don't get those on the RaceSpec, and I think that is a weight saving gone just one step too far. I would have liked to have seen the LEDs on the RaceSpec as well, because they do look fantastic. Now let's talk about the flight controller specification and Betaflight configuration for these drones, starting with the Hummingbird V3.1. We have two free UARTs on this board, and that means you could attach an external receiver if you wanted to, but there is an internal SerialRx receiver built into the board, which we'll talk about later, so you probably won't need to use these UARTs for anything. In terms of configuration, we can see that we're using a BMI270 Gyro with a 3.2 kHz sample rate, and that is perfect for these F4 tiny whoop boards. They can only run about a 4K PID loop maximum, so having 3.2K sample rate on the gyro and a really low noise, clean gyro like the BMI270 is exactly what you want. In terms of the Dshot beacon configuration, this isn't set, and you should set that because that means you can make the motors beep to tell you where the drone is and also check that your receiver is working and stuff like that. So set that to 3 and turn on RX lost and RX set so that you can beep the motors. Moving on to the PID tuning tab, and the PID profile settings for the Hummingbird V3.1 are crazy. You know, we've got D gains at 2, master multiplier at 1.3. This is an issue with drones that don't have Blackbox logging, is that often the factory tunes can be totally weird. I would suggest that you don't use the factory tune here and you go and apply a preset. So if you go into firmwares and select 4.4 and 4.5, you can apply the 65mm tiny whoop tune that I've developed. That's going to be much better for a drone like this compared to the factory tune, which is very, very strange. Some of the problems with it, obviously the slider positions are very, very strange, and you have very, very high D gains, which can lead to D term oscillation. You also don't have any dynamic idle set, and dynamic idle should be set to around 150 for a 65mm whoop like this. So it is worth just going in and applying that 65mm preset to kind of fix all this. If we go into the filter settings, we can see that there are more filters than we need here. You won't need 2 gyro filters for a drone like this. 1 RPM filter will be plenty, and you also won't need a dynamic notch filter because you won't get any frame resonances at any reasonable frequency. In terms of the gyro low pass filters, you can turn both of those off because we are running at the gyro sample rate for our PID loop. And for the D-term low pass filters, they can be left at default and that will work absolutely fine. So this is a much better filter setup for something like a 65mm drone. That will also be applied if you use my preset that I mentioned before. If we go into the receiver tab, we can see that we have a SPI receiver built into the board. Now that's fine for SerialRx. If you're using SerialRx 3, then that will work just fine. You won't be able to stay on the latest version of SerialRx with a SPI receiver because the SPI receiver has the SerialRx firmware baked into Betaflight. So the only way you can update to a newer version of SerialRx is to update the whole flight controller, update the whole Betaflight version. So I prefer serial receivers for SerialRx on tiny whoop boards like this, because then you can update the receiver separately from the flight controller. So you can update to a newer version of SerialRx, but you can keep the same Betaflight version. You can't do that with SPI. And you may end up with mismatches between the firmware on the flight controller and your radio that you're holding. And if that happens, the only thing you can do is to either downgrade the firmware on your radio or upgrade your whole Betaflight firmware. And that can wipe your config, which then causes all sorts of problems. So NewBeeDrone, if you're watching this, try and move to a serial SerialRx receiver in the next version of this board so that you don't have that horrible mismatch between needing to update Betaflight just to get onto the correct version of SerialRx. Modes are all fine, apart from the fact there's no beeper mode set, so you can't make the motors beep. Make sure you set a beeper mode, that way you can beep the motors to check that your radio is connected to the drone and it's all working. In the motors tab, we have props in configuration for these Hummingbird drones, and that's not the best for tiny whoops. You get better flight performance with props out, so you are going to want to change all the motor directions, change all the prop directions, and fly props out if you're serious about getting the maximum flight performance. So again, NewBeeDrone, if you're watching, in the next version of these drones, change them all to props out from the factory. That would be great. But it does have bidirectional Dshot with the correct Dshot 300 set, so that's good. The only other thing I want to mention is that there's no black box logging on these boards at all. and that means it's very, very difficult to get a good tune. And the best you can do is probably just apply the AOS 65mm preset, because without logging, there's really no way to dial in the tune or fix any issues. This is a problem on a number of NewBeeDrone bind and flies that I've reviewed now, and I'm hoping that they'll address it in future products. Every flight controller that is made in 2025 should have a Blackbox chip on it, at least 8 megabytes, so that we can debug, we can tune, all of that stuff. Making a flight controller without Blackbox in 2025 is unforgivable, as it was in 2024 and 2023 and 2022 and 2021 and so on. So Blackbox is a requirement on all flight controllers. So that's for the Hummingbird. Now let's look at the RaceSpec. For the RaceSpec, we're just going to focus on the main difference, which is that it has a completely different PID tune to the Hummingbird V3.1. The RaceSpec has a much more sensible PID tune. It's got dynamic idle correctly set. The sliders look to be in sensible positions. So this has clearly been done by a racing pilot or someone with a little bit more experience with flying these tiny whoops. The filter settings are still wrong. So even on the RaceSpec, you can turn off all the gyro low pass filters. You can set 1 RPM notch. You can turn off the dynamic notch and leave the D-term filters as they are, or even move them up to default, and that will be absolutely fine. Now let's take these drones for a little fly around the flat so that you can get an idea of the image quality from the camera and the Betaflight OSD layout. The RaceSpec, which is what we're going to look at, has the CAC firmware, which is a more racing orientated firmware, but that just changes the names of some of the elements. It doesn't really change how the OSD works. Now, overall, I think the camera is doing a reasonable job of capturing plenty of detail. I would say that compared to some of the tiny whoop cameras that I have used, the colors are a little bit washed out, and it does struggle a bit, as we see here going under the table, with changes in brightness. So the wide dynamic range algorithm here isn't as good as some cameras that I've flown on tiny whoops, but I think it's perfectly acceptable, and it copes really well in low light levels as well as bright light levels, maintaining plenty of detail in the shadows as you move from dark to light. So that's nice. In terms of the VTX output power, the maximum VTX output power on this flight controller is 25 milliwatts. So that's absolutely fine for racing. If you're just looking to freestyle and trying to get the best possible video reception, you don't have any higher power settings. And on some competitor flight controllers, you do get 200 or even 400 milliwatts of output as options, but here it's just 25 milliwatts. Again, you see we struggle a little bit moving from a dark area into a bright area. There's not a lot of detail until the camera kind of adjusts, but hopefully this gives you a good idea of the image quality that you can expect. And I think the OSD layout that NewBeeDrone have in this Betaflight firmware is really nice, neat and tidy, and it gives you all the information that you could want to fly with. Now let's take a look at the VTX output power from the NewBeeDrone Hummingbird V3. So here's the chart of conducted output power for the NewBeeDrone Hummingbird V3 VTX. And we're looking at race 1 to race 8. So that's from about 5.6 gigahertz up to just over 5.9 gigahertz. And there's only one power setting. So the graph is really nice and simple. There's just the 25 milliwatt output power setting. And we can see that in general, the Hummingbird VTX is delivering anywhere from about 12 milliwatts on race 1 up to just over 20 milliwatts on race 8. Now, if you're looking for the ideal VTX for racing, you're really looking for 25 milliwatts of output power across all the channels nice and evenly. That's going to give you the best video signal. And we can see here that NewBeeDrone could maybe make some changes or tune the power amplifiers on this VTX a little bit more to try and increase the power output, certainly on the lower race band channels like race 1, 2 and 3, bring them up closer to that 25 milliwatt setting. Now, I'm not aware that there is any power fine-tuning capability on this VTX to kind of bring the output power up towards 25 milliwatts, but that is another way you can address this, is providing some feature for manual power tuning. Now it's time for me to give you my thoughts on these bind and flies, starting with the Hummingbird V3.1. The positives: this is a super durable frame. The canopy and the frame are both really robust. You're going to be able to bounce off walls, ceilings, floors and furniture all day, every day, and you probably won't break anything. And even if you do break something, because it's all on connectors, it's super easy to just replace the damaged component and keep right on flying. That makes this drone perfect for someone who's looking for a first 65mm whoop and they think they're going to crash a lot, or someone who's looking specifically for a basher because they train hard and they know they're going to crash a lot and they want something that can survive that. That's the positives. The negatives, I mean, there are a few things that NewBeeDrone could look to improve in a future version, and this really speaks to how competitive the space is. The firmware configuration, both Betaflight and ESC, are not ideal. I'll put a link down in the video description to my Betaflight config for this drone so that you can fix the PID tune, which is not the best. And the ESC configuration could really do with being updated to BlueJ 96 kHz to get a bit more flight time. The VTX output power, only a 25 milliwatt setting, is a bit limiting. I would have liked to have seen a 200 and a 400 milliwatt setting so that you can fly a little bit further or have some penetration through obstacles. That is available on some other tiny whoops, those higher VTX output powers, so it's a shame we don't have it here. The Express LRS receiver is on a SPI interface, which makes it a little bit of a pain because you have to update Betaflight if you want to update to the newest Express LRS version. In a future version, it would be nice to see a serial Express LRS receiver, and again, that's available on flight controllers from other manufacturers. The camera is okay, but I don't think it's quite the best in terms of color and wide dynamic range that's out there right now. So again, NewBeeDrone should be looking to try and upgrade that camera to something a little bit better in a future version. Apart from that, the overall flight experience with this guy out of the box is really nice. And with a few firmware changes, you've got a really durable, really reliable basher that's going to be great for training, practicing your 65mm whoop racing. Now let's look at the Hummingbird RaceSpec. And starting with the positives, this really does look like a custom build from an experienced whoop racing pilot. NewBeeDrone have done everything they can to reduce the weight of this build and make it competitive. They're using 0702 30,000 kV motors, which is the right size for racing and the right kV, and they've extended the motor wires to the flight controller and direct soldered them to save weight and reduce resistance, so improve motor performance. The frame is very, very lightweight, the canopy is very, very lightweight, and this makes this probably the only bind and fly that I've seen in this category that you could take to a competitive whoop race and go up against the best pilots there, who will all be flying custom builds that look a lot like this. In terms of the limitations or the areas for improvement, all of the limitations and areas for improvement from the Hummingbird also apply to the RaceSpec, but also the BlueJ ESC firmware only being 48K and not 96K from the factory is a limitation. That means you're going to have to upgrade the BlueJ firmware on this board yourself in order to get the slightly longer flight time or better efficiency for racing. And the lack of Blackbox means that you can't dial in the tune. And if you're a really serious racing pilot, you're going to want to do that in order to extract the last, few tenths of a second of lap time. You can't do that without Blackbox. So it's a bit of a miss that that's not on there. Other than that, NewBeeDrone have done something really focused here with the RaceSpec. And I think if you are looking for a bind and fly that you can take to whoop races and be competitive, then this is going to be the one for you. Now that you've heard what I think of these bind and flies, I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you want to pick up one of these drones to try, there are links down in the video description to where you can get them. And they are affiliate links, which means if you click on them and make a purchase, it helps support the channel and it won't cost you a penny. So please do use those links if you possibly can and help support the work I'm doing and making more videos like this. While you're down there, check out the links for all the resources that are going to help you get your drones flying as good as they possibly can. There are some Betaflight configuration files for these bind and flies, and there's also a link to my Patreon where you can find heaps of information on how to tune tiny whoops, how to set the ESCs up to give you the best possible flight performance, all of that. That's all I have for you for today, so until next time, I wish you all very, very happy flying.